Part 68. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 671. The woman murmured in a low voice, and then looked at Suliang and Qin Wanyu. These two people are inferior to my young lady at first glance. My young lady's piano skills are unparalleled in the world. Is there any explanation for this? Just wrap it up quickly. As soon as these words came out, Suliang and the shopkeeper looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. I thought she had a big background, but it turned out that she was just a maid. But a maid has such a bad temper, what should the master do? Next moment, a girl wearing a gorgeous dress, with a delicate and pretty face, but aloof and arrogant, walked out of the crowd. After taking one look at the piano, the girl nodded lightly. It's really good. It's better than my collection. No need to talk nonsense anymore. Just wrap it up for me. This young lady, I just said that you can only get this piano if you pass the test of that piano score. Otherwise, even if there are tens of millions of spiritual stones, our store will not sell it. Oh. The girl raised her brows, faintly exuding some power. You sure? Looking at her cultivation, she is actually entering the dragon transformation realm for the first time. At such an age, it is really good to have such a level of cultivation. However, not to be outdone, the shopkeeper also released a little aura. After careful inspection, he was close to the peak of dragon transformation. I didn't expect that a small secular dynasty would have a master like you. The girl knew she was outmatched and immediately put away her momentum. I'm joking. I'm not really a master. I just do some housekeeping and nursing home work. The shop is very popular, so I have to have the ability to defend myself, right? What's more, with His Majesty in the palace, this villain's strength is really nothing. Snort. The girl snorted, very dissatisfied. Forget it, since it's a rule, I just have to abide by it. Bring me the music score, I want to give it a try. This lady still needs to wait aside. This young man has not tried it yet. The shopkeeper said politely. However, as soon as these words came out, the rich girl was obviously impatient and about to have a seizure. See this. Qin Wanyu took a step forward and smiled softly. Since my sister likes it, let her try it first. In such a quiet and elegant place, if you use your hands to break something, it will always be bad. Hear this. The shopkeeper immediately became solemn and saluted Qin Wanyu. Mrs. Gao Yi. He couldn't tell that Qin Wanyu was clearly worried that if she took action rashly, she would damage the things here, so she gave in. But the maid said proudly. You know the truth. Immediately. Taking the piano score, the girl sat down, studied it carefully for a moment, and then started playing. Listening to the girl's playing, Suliang, Qin Wanyu, and the shopkeeper couldn't help but nod. Although this girl is a bit arrogant, she is indeed capable. Even though she has not yet reached the level of using the piano to enter Taoism, the girl is not far away. It's not that she has better talent than Qin Wanyu. It can only be said that the girl has been working hard in this direction since she started practicing, and it is only now that she has begun to show signs of success. However, Qin Wanyu only started studying it long after she got together with Suliang. Her talent was evident in her ability to quickly enter Taoism with the piano. The shopkeeper glanced at Qin Wanyu and sighed inaudibly. In his opinion, Qin Wanyu could not compare to this young girl's ability to play the piano music with a strength close to that of entering Taoism with the piano. It is not difficult to get the approval of your boss. But from his own perspective, he wanted Qin Wanyu to get the piano. Without him, Qin Wanyu's love and respect for musical instruments was beyond that of that girl. The song is over. Chapter 581 Chapter 580 Jian Shan, Mu Kinkian's Choice. The girl stood up and looked at the shopkeeper proudly. "Can I take this piano with me?" "Don't worry, this lady hasn't played it yet," the shopkeeper said with a chuckle. "Although I feel invincible, I still have to give it a try. Take out your piano." Qin Wanyu took the piano score and pondered it carefully for a long time before starting to play. "Just play it." The whole store immediately became quiet. Under Qin Wanyu's playing, the sound of the piano is like celestial music to the ears, making people immersed in it. A picture appears before everyone's eyes, in which various ups and downs and soul-stirring delicate emotions are staged one by one, making people unable to help but feel happy and sad together. The shopkeeper was astonished for a moment. He couldn't tell that he had already entered Taoism with the piano. Yi Qin enters the road far beyond the owner of this store. After the piano music ended, everyone was still immersed in the scene just now, unable to extricate themselves. But on the top floor, a voice suddenly came. "Such a Qin skill is naturally unparalleled in the world, and this Qin can only be matched by you. This piano will be given to Madam. There is no doubt about the outcome of this competition. One is infinitely close to entering Taoism with the piano, but in the end he has not yet entered this realm. One has already entered the Tao with the piano, and has gone a long way in it. No matter how arrogant and unreasonable that wealthy lady is, there is no reason to continue to entangle her. Stand up. The rich lady is leaving here." On the contrary, the maid was a little unhappy and stared at Suliang and Qin Wanyu. "Do you know the identity of my young lady?" "My young lady is the granddaughter of an elder from the Holy Land." Although he only revealed his identity, the threat could be said to be beyond words. "My young lady's grandfather is an elder of the Holy Land. If you don't want to offend the elders of the Holy Land, please hand over your things quickly." Hear this. Everyone in the store shut their mouths, and no one dared to say more. I was afraid that if I didn't say a word correctly, I would offend the granddaughter of the elder of the Holy Land. Those are the elders of the Holy Land. In the entire righteous path, apart from the Holy Lord 11 Heng, they are some of the most respected people. Although they are obsessed with music theory, they come from all over the world, and some of them have a good background. But it is precisely because of this that they understand best what the words Holy Land Elder mean. That is a symbol of identity and strength, and it is definitely not something they can afford to offend. The shopkeeper who was in the dragon transformation realm stopped talking, his eyes flickered, and for a moment, he didn't know what to do. He is indeed in the realm of transforming into a dragon. In this great Xia, he is more or less a master. But so what? In the Holy Mountain, there are a lot of people with such strength, and even among them, he is at the bottom. Not to mention the most mysterious and tyrannical elders of the Holy Land. It was simply not someone he could afford to offend. Even the shop owner who just offered to give the piano to Qin Wanyu made no move. No matter how famous this musical instrument shop is in this circle, no matter how high its status is. But compared with an elder from the Holy Land, both in terms of identity, strength, and status, he is obviously far behind. Now, it is most appropriate to shut up and wait and see what happens. Instead, it was the wealthy lady who pulled the maid's hand with some embarrassment. "Zyro, let's go quickly. I'm willing to admit defeat. Since I lost to this sister, it means that I have no chance with this piano. There is no need to say anything more." After hearing this, Suliang had feelings for this rich lady. Judging from the maid's previous attitude, she would have thought that these two people were the kind of people who use their power to bully others. But now it seems. Although this girl is a bit arrogant, at least she is still very kind. The so-called arrogance is just a habit born out of being too pampered at home and being pampered by the elders in the family who have too high a status. He looked at Qin Wanyu. Qin Wanyu took a step forward. "To take away the love of the sister's heart, after all, I feel sorry for my sister. Why don't I spend the rest of the day talking to my sister about music? If she was really a pampered and overbearing person, Suliang and Qin Wanyu would not bother to talk to her. But seeing that this girl seems pretty good, isn't it impossible to make up for it a little? Although there was nothing wrong with Suliang and Qin Wanyu in this matter. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 672. Real. The girl's eyes lit up and she immediately became happy. Then thank you sister for your guidance. She couldn't tell that Qin Wanyu said he was communicating with her, but given the gap between the two of them in piano skills, this was no communication at all. It was clearly just to teach her. How could you miss such an opportunity? For a while. In the girl's heart, she also felt more favorable and grateful towards Qin Wanyu. However, the maid snorted softly. Miss, who are you? Why are you so polite to her? If she doesn't give it, wouldn't it be better to just ask the ancestor to come and ask for advice? Zyro. The girl reprimanded rather helplessly, feeling very unhappy. The status of the elders of the Holy Land is indeed very high, but this is not something you can rely on to bully others. Suliang shook his head helplessly. If you really want to do this, you can go back and find your ancestor. Tell him that my name is Suliang. I should be returning to the Holy Land in a few days. I will be waiting for him at any time. Looking at the maid's appearance, Suliang was really worried that she would find some masters to come and cause mischief in Daxia. Although this maid is unlikely to invite the ancestor, in the name of the elders of the Holy Land, it is still no problem to find a few masters of the immortality realm. By then, neither he nor his wives would be here, and he didn't know what trouble he was going to cause. It would be better to just state your name and turn all the attention to yourself, which would save you a lot of trouble. Suliang is really not worried about being an elder of the Holy Land. However, as soon as these words came out, before the maid said anything, the girl's eyes flashed and she couldn't help but take a step forward. You, Master Suliang? My lord doesn't count, but if Suliang is concerned, it should be me. Suliang replied subconsciously. Looking at this girl's attitude, he felt something was wrong. Her eyes were almost shining. Why did she feel a little scared? I didn't expect to meet Lord Suliang here. After confirming Suliang's identity, the girl almost cheered happily. I have always admired Lord Suliang. You have saved the Holy Lord several times and led both good and evil to resist the abyss. Listening to the girl's intermittent words, Suliang and Qin Wanyu looked at each other with strange expressions. Are you meeting a fangirl again? I remember I met one before. Ahem, I just did what I had to do. Suliang quickly stopped the girl. It's really not appropriate for a girl to be like this. The girl shook her head and seemed to calm down a little. At home, Grandpa often educates us about your affairs. If I let Grandpa know that I met Lord Suliang, not only will he not treat me respectfully, but he will offend me. I'm afraid he will have to teach me a lesson again. So, I also ask Lord Suliang and his sister to agree to my request and take me to exchange music knowledge. As soon as these words came out, Suliang and Qin Wanyu looked at each other and nodded. This was something Qin Wanyu had promised before. It would obviously not be appropriate for her to change her mind and regret it now. What else can I do? I can only agree. Only. Suliang is a little worried about how he will send this girl away when the time comes. As for the maid, she calmed down the moment she heard Suliang's name. Someone who even her ancestors admired was obviously not something she could do. Subsequently, he was even ordered by the girl to return to the family first and report everything that happened here. Immediately, followed Suliang and Qin Wanyu back to the mansion. The girl had long forgotten about the exchange of musical notes. From the very beginning, she had been surrounding Suliang. She was extremely skilled in serving tea and water. She even planned to give Suliang a massage, but Suliang refused. Seeing the busy figure of the girl, Suliang and Qin Wanyu sighed together. This is really troublesome. It wasn't until the next morning that Suliang and Qin Wanyu finally sent the girl away. No way. Although it was very similar to letting this girl leave on the same day, she just didn't want to leave, and Suliang and Qin Wanyu couldn't drive them away. Even when it was time to rest at night, the girl wanted to follow Suliang into the room. Fortunately, Suliang stopped him. Seeing the girl's back turning back 3 times and leaving with great reluctance, Suliang sighed. I didn't expect that my husband would have such a straightforward admirer. Qin Wanyu thought about it for a long time before finally coming up with a less unpleasant word to describe this girl. As for Qin Wanyu's words, Suliang himself was a little confused. Even a little uncomfortable. He had already seen Mu Qingqian's popularity when he was at the Holy Mountain. But I didn't expect that I actually have a fangirl who is no less a fan of Mu Qingqian. And after this, Suliang and Qin Wanyu spent another day at home, one teaching and the other studying. In just one day, Qin Wanyu's piano skills improved by leaps and bounds. Especially when 2 people play together, they have reached a level of proficiency. Qin Wanyu was very satisfied with this result. Although they were with their husband for a few days, the 2 of them could not even leave Shengjing, and the only time they went out was that one time. But that's enough. Qin Wanyu was already very satisfied. Then, early in the morning 3 days later, Suliang was pushed out by Qin Wanyu. To put it in a beautiful name, you can't take up other sister's time. If she wins Kaoj later, Qin Wanyu doesn't mind occupying her husband for a while longer. After all, with the relationship between the 2 of them, this level of joking is okay. But who told her to be followed by Mu Qingqian? How dare you take advantage of this girl? With a confused look on his face, he took his things out of Shengjing. Chapter 582 Chapter 581 Aiming for the peak of sword art. Looking at the road in front of him, Suliang fell into confusion. Qingqian should be waiting for him in the Holy Land now, right? So, are you going to the Holy Land to find her now? With Suliang's current strength, it really doesn't take much time to travel to and from the Holy Land. But he was worried that if he went to the Holy Land, he would not be able to come out again. After all, my master is still there. And when Suliang was confused, a beautiful shadow suddenly fell from the sky and landed next to Suliang. It was Mu Qingqian. Senior brother Suliang, have you been waiting for me for a long time? Mu Qingqian hugged Suliang's arm very skillfully and naturally, and said with a smile. Let's go, where are we going? You guys have basically agreed upon it, otherwise, why would the time calculation be more accurate for each one? Suliang patted Mu Qingqian's little head and said helplessly. To this, Mu Qingqian just stuck out her tongue, neither admitted nor defended anything. After hugging his wife tightly, Suliang no longer struggled with this aspect, but asked. As for where to go, that should be decided by you. Is there anywhere you want to go? After hearing this, Mu Qingqian thought for a while, nodded and said. If you say that, I really have a place I want to go to, why don't you, senior brother Su, accompany me to practice? A few days ago, I accidentally got the news that a secret realm is about to be opened somewhere. It seems to be very dangerous. Let's go to that secret realm together. By the way, senior brother Su will teach me how to practice. Mu Qingqian was obviously looking forward to having her husband teach her how to practice. With Suliang's current cultivation strength, there is probably no gap compared to Jingmen. By analogy, Suliang may not understand Mu Qingqian's skills, but there is no problem in teaching them how to practice. Not to mention, with Suliang's current level of swordsmanship, it would be easy to teach Mu Qingqian swordsmanship. To this, You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 673. Suliang nodded and agreed directly. But are secret realms appearing too frequently recently? Maybe it's a coincidence. After all, there are so many secret realms that have survived for such a long time, and it's normal for a few to come together occasionally. Lead the way and we'll set off right now. Suliang rubbed Mu Qingqian's little head, flew with his sword, and flew Mu Qingqian towards the secret realm. On the way, Suliang asked curiously. Speaking of which, haven't you ever thought about going back to the sect to have a look? My girlfriend and master all took me back to the sect, and my sister even took me directly back to her parents' home. If Mu Qingqian wanted to take her back to the sect, Suliang would understand. If you calculate carefully, the time for Mu Qingqian and Jingmeng to leave the sect is not too short, right? And although Suliang had heard of Mu Qingqian's sect, he had never been there. No need, Master Mo, there is no point in returning to the section. Mu Qingqian shook his head. Returning to the sect or something, obviously not going to explore the secret realm with my husband, it would be fun to practice together. Being able to be with Lang Jun, and being able to practice and improve your strength. Where else can you find such a good thing? While chatting, the two of them moved very quickly. In almost a moment, they had reached the location of the secret realm. It is said to be a secret realm, but in fact, this is just a mountain in the real world. This mountain has always been surrounded by sword energy, and the sword energy seems to be different in different areas. Mu Qingqian explained to Suliang. And this is just the outermost chance. It is said that there are clues to the next secret realm in this mountain. The next secret realm is rumored to be related to a great opportunity. I don't know if it is true. Listening to his wife's words, Suliang closed his eyes and felt it a little. Immediately. When I opened my eyes again, there was a hint of surprise in them. It's interesting. When you understand these sword intentions, you will also be tested by these sword intentions. And if you can pass these tests, it will be equivalent to a sword intention imprinted in your heart. As long as you understand it carefully, you can understand the most authentic artistic conception of the sword intention. There are hundreds of different sword intentions scattered throughout the mountain, some of which even Suliang finds quite amazing and can bring some inspiration to his sword technique. It is conceivable that if a sword practitioner can contain all the sword intent in his body, comprehend it carefully, absorb the parts that are consistent with his own sword spirit, and use it for his own use. I am afraid that my swordsmanship will improve rapidly and will eventually reach a terrifying point. Certainly. Passing this kind of test of sword intention will definitely cost a lot of money. Generally speaking, if you can comprehend 1 or 2 ways, you are already good, and if you can comprehend 5 or 6 ways, you will be considered a peerless genius. Unless one relies on strong cultivation, it is simply impossible to comprehend the sword energy of the entire mountain. This is a holy land for sword cultivators. I'm afraid even Jingmeng will feel happy and surprised here. Suliang said with some emotion. Looking at the bustling crowd below, Suliang smiled and said, "Let's go and join in the fun." Suliang and Mu Qingqian arrived much later. Now, there are already many proud men from various sects waiting here. Although the opportunity is good, it is obviously not enough to allow those Taoist masters to come in person. And because it was an opportunity related to Kendo. Therefore, those who came were all famous swordsmanship geniuses from various sections. Everyone was carrying a long sword. When they gathered together, the sword intent soared into the sky, echoing the sword intent on the mountain. It was very spectacular. However, when Suliang and Mu Qingqian fell outside the crowd. The sword intent that filled a radius of hundreds of meters suddenly stopped and weakened. This feeling is like seeing the emperor in the sword. For a while, everyone looked in the direction of Suliang and Mu Qingqian. After seeing the person clearly, everyone felt that it was natural. The righteous goddess Mu Qingqian, as a disciple of the sword immortal Jingmeng, is naturally extremely powerful in her swordsmanship, and her strength far exceeds theirs. It is obviously natural to suppress their swordsmanship. And Suliang. It makes them even more convinced. As someone of the same generation, his cultivation strength has long surpassed theirs and has reached a higher level. Suliang's swordsmanship was superb. Every time he used it, Suliang's shocking sword intent would make them tremble. Many people present had witnessed it with their own eyes and naturally understood the gap between themselves and the other party. Now, standing in front of Suliang again, they all felt that it was difficult to even breathe. Their sword intent was suppressed tightly, and it was difficult to even activate it, let alone use it. They have never felt this kind of feeling even from the strongest swordsman elders in each sect, or even from the Tao Master. Being of the same generation, his swordsmanship is already so strong. Everyone was a little shocked, but they all felt it was natural. After all, it was Suliang who was known as the #1 genius. He was the one who could convince the arrogant people. When Suliang walked towards them, the people gathered together all automatically separated to the left and right to make way. Even when Suliang passed by, he would subconsciously bend down and clasp his fists to show respect. When Suliang came to the sword mountain, looking at the people gathered around him, he thought for a moment and inspired a little sword intent. Moment. The sword intent soared into the sky, tearing apart the clouds, as if even the sky was about to change color. Even though they were far apart, Suliang didn't even target anyone, let alone carry out any substantive attack. But everyone felt a tingling sensation on their skin. It was like being struck by 10,000 swords. However, this moment. But no one was alert at all, and no one suspected Suliang. They all looked at Suliang with shock and admiration, feeling the shocking sword intent and being mesmerized. When Suliang released his sword intention, it was just a little feedback on their previous attitude. Even if it was just a little bit of sword intent, it was enough for them to gain a lot of insights considering that Suliang's swordsmanship was far superior to anyone else at the moment. A peerless swordsman takes the initiative to release his sword intent to make them realize. Such opportunities are rare. When Suliang took back his sword intention, everyone bowed to Suliang sincerely and thanked him in various ways. Even if it was only for a moment, they had already gained a lot, and some even achieved breakthroughs in swordsmanship on the spot. This kind of gratitude, in their opinion, is really deserved. If there were still people who were jealous of Suliang before, they would not accept it. Now, all they have in their hearts is endless admiration. No need to do this, I'm just giving you some reference. Suliang waved his hand and said with a smile. Can anyone explain to me the current situation? Reporting to Senior Brother Su, I am Meng Jingyun of Wanjian Dao Section. A young girl walked out in one step, bowed to Suliang, and then said with a little admiration. We have been waiting outside the Sword Mountain for several days, and we have probably figured out the situation of the Sword Mountain. Beyond the Sword Mountain, there is an invisible formation barrier. When the barrier is open, no one can enter it. And every afternoon, there will be a period of time when the formation barrier is opened, allowing us to enter and exit at will. However, this time is a bit too short. Because of this, until today, we have not gained much. Is that so? There is actually a formation to cover and protect? Suliang felt it carefully and nodded slightly. Although it had been a long time and was already a bit damaged, there was indeed a formation here to block everyone's entry. Of course Suliang can break through the formation, but there is no need to do so. When can this formation be opened? Su Liang asked again. Before the junior sister from the Wanjian Dao sect could answer, a wave of light flashed across. Chapter 583 Chapter 582 Sword Fight. Su Liang only felt that after a burst of spiritual power, there seemed to be nothing in front of him that could stop him from entering. It seems that I came at the right time. Su Liang shook his head and laughed. After thanking this disciple of Wanjian Dao sect, he took Mu Qingqian and walked in. As soon as I entered it, the countless types of sword intent were mixed together, and the majestic and sharp feeling immediately rushed towards Su Liang, making Su Liang shaken up. It seems that there is indeed something mysterious here. If there are just hundreds of sword intentions, there will be no such effect. Time is limited, why don't we look for it first? Su Liang asked Mu Qingqian for his opinion. How about we wait until we find the sword intention that suits you and then understand it? Okay, senior brother Su will just make arrangements. Mu Qingqian nodded, trusting her husband very much. Then, the two of them strolled on this sword mountain, constantly looking for sword intent that would be useful to Mu Qingqian. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 674. And accompanied Su Liang through every area. There will be different sword intentions that rise and then weaken quickly. Apparently, Su Liang was constantly comprehending the meaning of the sword, and quickly broke through the trial and turned it into his own use. Along the way, I have gained a lot. Soon, Su Liang stopped in front of a broken ancient sword. Pointing to the ancient sword, Su Liang said, "The sword intention contained in this sword should be very suitable for your understanding. Do you want to give it a try?" After hearing this, Mu Qingqian walked forward without hesitation, gently pressed her jade hand on the ancient sword, activated the sword intention in it, and began to comprehend it carefully. After a while, the broken ancient sword suddenly rose into the air, controlled by the sword's will, and struck towards Mu Qingqian. To this, Su Liang just watched from the sidelines without any intention of intervening. These trials were within the range that Mu Qingqian could handle, so Su Liang's help was naturally not needed. And this trial process is also a process of further understanding and confirming one's own understanding. All in all, it can be considered part of the chance. As expected. After spending some time, Mu Qingqian finally solved the sword intention. After closing her eyes and thinking for a moment, Mu Qingqian said to Su Liang in surprise, "Senior brother Su is right, this sword intention is really suitable for me." As if to prove his words, Mu Qingqian performed his sword technique on the spot. For a moment, the sword energy surged around him, and his sword intent was awe-inspiring. The core part of this kind of sword intent is of course what Mu Qingqian has been practicing all this time. There is his own understanding and perception in it, but after all, it was taught by Jing Meng, and naturally there is also the shadow of Jing Meng's swordsmanship. And now, because he had realized this new sword intention, Mu Qingqian's sword skills gained some other feelings. If you are serious, it should be sharper? Among the changes, Su Liang could only roughly perceive them. Only Mu Qingqian knew the more detailed changes. But anyway, Mu Qingqian is indeed much stronger at this moment. "Senior brother Su, how are you? Are you awesome?" Mu Qingqian asked Su Liang proudly. "After you improve your cultivation, you must let Mr. Lang praise you, and you will be happier." Well, it turns out that Qingqian is indeed called a goddess. Her talent in swordsmanship is comparable to Jing Meng's. Hearing this, Mu Qing smiled even happier. After all, at that time, apart from Su Liang, the only person with the most powerful swordsmanship was Jing Meng. Wonking, no shadow of the past, Ji Hongchen may have a higher level of cultivation than Jing Meng. But what they learned was also very complex. They were simply above the level of swordsmanship, but not as advanced as Jing Meng. That is to say, Jing Meng can be regarded as the most talented person in the world of swordsmanship. But now Mu Qingqian was evaluated by Su Liang as being as good as Jing Meng. As someone whose level of swordsmanship is also ridiculously high, Su Liang's words are still very convincing. This is a compliment from my husband, how could I not be happy? Coming to Su Liang's side, holding Su Liang's arm, Mu Qingqian asked. Lang Jun, should we continue exploring here, or should we leave first? Mu Qingqian was very satisfied to be able to find a sword intention that suited him and understand it. She is different from Su Liang. With Su Liang's level of swordsmanship, she can naturally comprehend all the sword intentions here and accommodate her body. Not only will she not be affected, but it will increase her strength to an absurdly strong level. But Mu Qingqian's current cultivation and swordsmanship are still a bit weak. If this is the case, not to mention that it will take an absurdly long time. Even if she does it, she will inevitably be affected by these sword intentions. By the time, instead, one's own sword intent will be filled with many other miscellaneous sword intents, making it difficult to distinguish and remove them. Maybe it will improve Mu Qingqian's strength in the short term, but in the long run, it will limit her development. Keep walking, there should be a few more suitable for you here. Su Liang said with a smile. With him here, his wife can naturally get the maximum benefit within her limits. As for those side effects, as long as they did not exceed Mu Qingqian's limit, Su Liang would naturally have ways to resolve them. Then, the two continued on the path of exploration. In just 1 hour, the two of them had already walked through most of the Sword Mountain, and found the 6 most suitable sword intentions for Mu Qingqian, allowing her to understand and tolerate them. But I don't know why. Su Liang had a premonition at this moment. There may be a chance for Mu Qingqian in this Sword Mountain. But it is no longer on the surface. If he searched carefully, he would certainly be able to find the remaining 3 sword intents for Mu Qingqian, allowing her to reach her limit directly. But if he does this, it may cause Mu Qingqian to miss even greater opportunities. Although this premonition came out of nowhere, Su Liang subconsciously believed it. After completely letting go of his senses, he absorbed all the sword intent on the entire mountain in an instant. Su Liang said to Mu Qingqian, "Let's get here first. Next, we should look for the biggest opportunity here." The biggest opportunity. Mu Qingqian immediately remembered the rumors she had heard. Lang Jun is talking about the clues leading to the next secret realm. Su Liang nodded and pointed at the sword intent bursting out on the top of the mountain. Actually, the so-called next secret realm is in this mountain. It just takes some time and effort to find it. Others need to look for a long time, but they may not be able to find them, and even if they are found, they may not be able to get close to them. For Su Liang, there was no such concern. But at this moment, the junior sister from Wanjian Dao sect suddenly came over. Senior brother Su Liang and senior sister Qingqian, the formation here will be reactivated soon. At that time, if you still stay in this mountain, you will be attacked by the sword intent of the entire mountain. And once this formation is activated, people inside can't get out anymore. It's very dangerous. How about we exit now and explore again tomorrow? These are the rules that those of them who came early have tried with their lives. The lessons of blood and tears have naturally made them unforgettable and made them more cautious. No, don't worry, I'm here. Su Liang shook his head and stamped his feet lightly. Immediately. Then there was a sword energy that escaped into the deep mountains very vaguely and pierced the core of the formation. All right. Su Liang nodded with satisfaction and explained. I have controlled the core of this formation. At least today, the formation will not operate. Please tell others about this. Immediately. While the junior sister hadn't left yet, Suliang pointed to the place on the top of the mountain where the sword energy was shining brightly and the sword energy was everywhere. Next, I will go up with Qingqian to take a look. If I guess correctly, the entrance to the next secret realm should be there. If you are also interested, just wait for the sword energy above to dissipate and go directly up. This is. The junior sister was stunned for a moment, and a hint of surprise immediately appeared on her pretty face. Controlling the core of the formation and opening the entrance to the next secret realm sounded outrageous, as if Suliang was talking nonsense, but for some reason, she believed it in her heart. No matter who they were, they had all done such bizarre things, and even died a lot because of their attempts. But if the person who said this is Suliang, maybe he really can do it? No hesitation. The junior sister of Wanjian Dao sect immediately used full speed to look for anyone on the mountain to inform them of the news. Watching the junior sister's back go away, Suliang hugged Mu Qingqian, and with a flash of his body, he went directly to the top of the mountain, the center of the vertical and horizontal sword energy. Here, the sword energy seems to be forming a storm, cold and sharp. Its power can only be resisted by those who are at least in the immortality realm. However, for Suliang, this power is nothing. It seems that the sword intention and sword energy here are all because of that. Suliang pointed at a long sword not far in front of the two of them and said. The tip of the long sword sank into the mountain peak, giving it an ancient yet sharp feeling. The tyrannical sword energy spread out from it, and the endless sword energy came over and over again. Just by looking at it, you can tell that this is definitely a famous sword that is hard to find in the world. He used his sword power to protect Mu Qingqian. Suliang stepped forward and observed the long sword carefully. Strange inscriptions are engraved on the sword body, and it is these inscriptions that gather the surrounding spiritual energy and continuously stimulate the sword intention and sword energy in this long sword. And because of the long-term cultivation of spiritual energy, this long sword not only did not decay, but became more and more magical. Faintly, there are already signs of spirituality being born. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 675. Although such weapons are not as good as holy objects, in some aspects, they are even better. All in all, as long as you can get it in your hands, your strength will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Qingqian, try and see if you can pull out this sword. Suliang stepped aside and wanted to let Mu Qingqian have a try. Chapter 584 Chapter 583 The feeling of déjà vu. To this, Mu Qingqian naturally had no reason to refuse. He took a step forward and pulled out the sword. For a moment, there was a sound of swords, and the sword energy that had been stagnated for countless years suddenly rose into the sky, sweeping and wreaking havoc. Almost instantly, everything within a radius of several miles would be destroyed. Such power was nothing to Suliang, but it was impossible for those geniuses to withstand it. Therefore, the moment the sword energy bursts out, Suliang gathered all the sword energy and struck it straight into the sky. After a loud roar, all the clouds in the sky were torn apart, and a vague crack appeared in the sky, as if it was about to be shattered. But Suliang knew that it was just a turbulence in the space, not even being torn apart. It's just some sword energy. No matter how much it accumulates, it won't tear the space apart so easily if quantitative changes cause qualitative changes. And the other side. Taking the long sword in his hand, Mu Qingqian waved it, a light of surprise flashed in his eyes. Obviously the sword looks very heavy and has an ancient feeling, but when held in the hand, it is incredibly light, as if it has no weight. After pouring the true essence into it, Mu Qingqian didn't need to use the sword at all, and the sword intention and sword energy were stimulated, which was extremely powerful. And if this sword is used to perform swordsmanship, driven by Mu Qingqian's powerful sword intention, the power will be increased by more than 10 times. It can be said that just by obtaining this sword, Mu Qingqian's strength has made a huge leap. The most important is, faintly, Mu Qingqian seemed to feel something like swordsmanship coming from the weak spirituality in the sword. After just a brief comprehension, the vastness and grandeur of it made Mu Qingqian feel a little frightened. But this swordsmanship is only half, very incomplete. This sword is indeed a good thing, and there seems to be half a chapter on swordsmanship in it. Reluctantly stroking the blade of the sword, Mu Qingqian handed the sword to Su Liang. "Here, senior brother Su, can you hold this sword?" Of course she liked the sword very much. But she subconsciously wanted to give such a good thing to her beloved. As for master, the master already has her own sword. She has used it for many years, and her relationship must be very deep. She shouldn't need her disciple to find it for her, right? Looking at the sword handed to him, Su Liang tapped the sword lightly, memorized the fragments of swordsmanship in it, and pushed it back. "I asked you to pull it out. It was originally intended for you to hold it. Same as Mu Qingqian. If you have such a good thing, of course you should give it to your loved ones." Even in order to stop Mu Qingqian from evading, Su Liang continued, "I already have a razor, there is no need to look for other swords. A handful of holy objects in hand can have a considerable boosting effect even for Su Liang today. Naturally, there is no need to look for other weapons to use." The most important reason why Su Liang insisted on letting Mu Qingqian accept the sword was because he guessed that the sword should be a key. Should say, this sword and the swordsmanship fragments in it are all part of the key. When going deep into the next secret realm, only by holding the sword and learning the remaining sword skills can you get the final and best reward. Then, Su Liang continued, while others haven't come yet, you should first comprehend the fragmentary swordsmanship and try to learn part of its content, at least after you have mastered it. After entering the next secret realm, this sword technique will definitely be of great use. Su Liang was very sure of his guess. Although I don't know why my husband said this. But Mu Qingqian still nodded and agreed, and began to understand the mystery of this swordsmanship seriously. In order to make Mu Qingqian's progress faster, Su Liang also explained it carefully to her. Although this sword technique is incomplete, it is profound and exquisite, rarely seen in the world. Even if Su Liang wants to completely master it, it will take some time. But no problem. If he just got started, Su Liang could still do it in a short time. Seeing that Mu Qingqian had already entered into a state of enlightenment, Su Liang casually arranged a protective sword array, then came to the place where the sword stood before, and observed it carefully. When the sword was pulled out, with the burst of sword energy, the surrounding rocks naturally shattered and disappeared, revealing the scene inside. At first glance, there was nothing but bottomless darkness inside, like a deep abyss. However, if you sense it carefully, you will find that not far from the entrance, there is what looks like a space passage. That is to say, what is hidden inside is really a secret realm. The role of this sword is not only to protect and suppress the entrance. It also has the function of trial and screening. Only those who can obtain this sword with sword energy and successfully pass the trial are qualified to enter it. While Su Liang was observing, those geniuses also arrived here one after another. Looking at Mu Qingqian, who was standing aside, he put the long sword on his lap, carefully comprehended the sword energy, and his whole body was filled with sword energy. Then look at Su Liang, who is carefully observing the entrance. A flash of light flashed in the eyes of many people. The sword in Mu Qingqian's hand looked extraordinary. And, feeling Mu Qingqian's sword intent, how could they not know that Mu Qingqian had clearly gained huge benefits here? Now, Mu Qingqian happened to be in the process of enlightenment, her perception of the outside world was almost closed, and she was less vigilant, and Su Liang was not by her side. Isn't it just right for snatching? Then, someone quietly took a step, and then quickly rushed in the direction of Mu Qingqian, trying to snatch the sword. Since it is a chance, then those who are destined to know should know that just because you get it, it does not mean that you are the one who is destined to do it. But the next moment, the sword array arranged by Suliang was immediately activated, and several powerful sword intents came from all directions, penetrating through, and instantly pinning those people to the ground. Suliang slowly turned his head and said calmly, "This is what you will end up with if you do something wrong to yourself." Everyone present did not help at all, and even criticized Suliang. Along the way, if it weren't for Suliang, they wouldn't be here at all. They still understand the most basic gratitude. Suliang ignored those people and said to everyone, "The entrance to the secret realm has been opened, everyone, you can go in." After hearing Suliang's words, a group of geniuses couldn't wait to enter the secret realm and began to explore. But soon, some people came back from it, disgraced and seriously injured. He took out a few healing elixirs and handed them over, and used his true energy to help these people stabilize their injuries. Suliang didn't pay attention to these people's thanks, but asked, "Why did you come back so soon? What did you find inside?" After entering, we entered a corridor. There was a bit of bitterness on the man's face. The corridor is not narrow, enough for us to stand up, but soon many stone dolls poured out from all directions. Stone doll. Suliang raised his eyebrows. Then what? This was something he didn't expect. And why does it sound so familiar? We are fighting and advancing. The stone puppets are not strong, but they are extremely hard. After receiving a certain amount of attacks, they all retreated. The man continued. We continued on and encountered dozens of side roads. Everyone looks the same, and we don't know where it leads. We explored separately and found a random passage to enter. Inside, we met those stone dolls again. At this point, the man looked a little frightened. But this time, the stone puppet is much stronger. It also uses sword skills that we can't understand. We can't defeat it at all. Many people were killed and injured, so we had to retreat first. As for the others that haven't come out yet, they should still be exploring inside. Unknown swordsmanship? Suliang thought seriously, suddenly stood up and performed a sword technique. Is this what you saw? Yes, that's it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 676. The man was extremely surprised. Senior brother Su, why do you know this kind of swordsmanship? It's just an accident. Suliang smiled and confirmed his guess. Why does it feel like this secret realm looks like a trial venue? It is like a trial venue specially arranged among those large sects to help disciples learn martial arts and test their cultivation. And this trial venue seems to have been set up specifically to test the remaining swordsmanship that I learned from that sword. In this case, the final reward. Nodding slightly, Suliang already had a rough guess. Waited again for a moment. Another wave of people came out of it, including the junior sister of Wanjian Dao sect. Even you can't break through the obstruction of those stone dolls. Suliang said with some surprise, if this was the case, then he would have to re-evaluate the dangers inside. After all, including this junior sister, the strength of these people is generally stronger, and they are simply not comparable to the previous people. That's not true. The junior sister shook her head in embarrassment. We all passed those stone dolls, but the road ahead was blocked. It seemed that we needed a key or something. We couldn't open it at all, so we had to give up temporarily. Is that so? Suliang nodded and looked at the sword in Mu Qingqian's hand. It seemed that my guess was indeed correct. This sword is the key here. It was at this time. Mu Qingqian's aura suddenly dropped, and she opened her eyes. Senior brother Su, I have learned it. Su Liang explained everything to her bit by bit, in detail. If she still couldn't learn this, then she wouldn't have the strength she has now. Chapter 585 Chapter 584 Are you practicing? Are you taking advantage? In that case, let's go down and have a look. Su Liang asked Mu Qingqian for his opinion. Yeah, let's go down and have a look. Mu Qingqian nodded excitedly. I was taught how to practice by my husband, and then I explored the secret realm with my husband and practiced together to become stronger. This feeling is really addictive. Then, arriving at Mu Qingqian's side, Su Liang hugged Mu Qingqian, and the two of them jumped directly into the secret realm. After their eyes were hazy for a while, what appeared in front of Su Liang and Mu Qingqian was indeed the extremely wide corridor. It is said to be a corridor, but it is considered a square and its area is more than enough. And just then, there was a clicking sound of mechanisms all around, and then, two stone dolls rose up from the ground, each with a sword in his hand, looking very flexible and fierce. Is it really a trial venue? The trial is still arranged according to the number of people. To this, Su Liang just waved his hand and slashed out with sword energy, using just the right amount of force to knock down the two stone dolls. Immediately, the two of them entered the countless passages together. Looking at the spreading passage in front of him, Mu Qingqian was still confused about how to go, but Su Liang didn't care about it, just picked one at random and walked in. If this is a trial venue, then the passage here actually only serves the purpose of separating everyone. In fact, the place it ultimately leads to is still the same. No matter which one, it's actually the same. Then, after the two successfully defeated the enemies in the passage, they walked to the end of the passage and, as expected, came to another wide corridor. However, this time, what appeared from the end of the corridor was a huge bronze door. There seems to be a keyhole-like existence on it, but if you look closely, it turns out to be the shape of a sword. Try putting the sword in your hand and try it. Su Liang said to Mu Qingqian. Nodding, Mu Qingqian stepped forward and thrust the sword in. Moment. The sword intent in it was stimulated, and with the sound of a mechanism running, the huge bronze door slowly opened. But what appeared in front of Su Liang and Mu Qingqian was a huge palace-like existence. There are countless bookshelves and weapon racks in the palace, and countless classics and swords can be seen on them. However, Su Liang and Mu Qingqian did not touch them. Unlike the one in Mu Qingqian's hand, these books and long swords have not been nourished by spiritual energy at all. They have decayed over the countless years and can only maintain their shape now, but in fact, they have become a handful of fly ash. With a slight touch, it will turn into ashes and scatter. But in the center of this palace, there are several bronze statues. Accompanied by Su Liang and Mu Qingqian walked in. Two of the bronze statues made a whirling sound, and then they actually took action, using the long swords in their hands to wield a set of sword techniques from the remaining sword techniques. Come on Qingqian. Su Liang encouraged Mu Qingqian. Use the sword skills you just learned to defeat them. This trial is not just a test of the visitor's strength and mastery of the set of swordsmanship. In the process of fighting these bronze statues, it is actually the process of the visitor practicing the set of swordsmanship. For Mu Qingqian, nature is a very beneficial thing. To this, Mu Qingqian naturally knew it. Without saying anything else, he used the sword skills he had just learned to fight with those bronze statues. For a while, the scene was extremely complicated and chaotic. With one enemy against many, Mu Qingqian fought with several bronze statues. For a while, the whole hall was full of swords. The swords were unbridled and sharp. The strength of these bronze statues seems to be adjusted according to the strength of the challenger. Therefore, the strength exerted by each one is consistent with the strongest strength that a genius with the same cultivation level as Mu Qingqian can exert. If someone else were here, it would be very difficult to deal with one. But Mu Qingqian was different. Her strength was much higher than those of the geniuses, and she was not on the same level at all. Therefore, with one enemy against many, it is easy and simple. It seems that the battle can be resolved quickly. However, even so, Mu Qingqian still had no intention of letting the fight end. Instead, the fight became more and more intense. It looks like he is getting familiar with the swordsmanship he just learned. With Su Liang's explanation and his own insights. With the support of Mu Qingqian's powerful swordsmanship talent. Soon, she has already become proficient in practicing the fragments of this sword technique. Although it is still at the beginning level, there are countless changes in it. It is no longer just a book, but can be used flexibly. Looking at this scene, Su Liang nodded gently, feeling very relieved in his heart. Should I say that she is worthy of being my girlfriend? This talent and understanding are indeed incredibly powerful. And just when Mu Qingqian became more and more skilled, these bronze statues suddenly stopped moving, and then they all retreated. Seeing this scene, Mu Qingqian was very confused. For a moment, he didn't realize what happened. On the contrary, Su Liang saw the clues, walked forward, smiled at his girlfriend and said, "Let's go. Your strength and familiarity with this set of swordsmanship have met the requirements of these bronze statues. Therefore, this battle is over. Now." Su Liang has become more and more sure of the function here. This should be a training ground for disciples to enhance their strength, become familiar with combat, and test their sword skills. Only, Su Liang couldn't guess what kind of training ground this was and why it appeared here. Perhaps, by walking to the deepest point here, we should be able to get the answer? So fast. Mu Qingqian looked a little confused, but then she pouted, very dissatisfied. "But, my training is not over yet." Just now, she was concentrating on practicing and mastering her sword skills. "It's not easy to find such a good sparring partner, so of course I have to make good use of it. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 677. However, just as she was getting better, she was interrupted. How can this be accepted? It doesn't matter. There will definitely be more than just this test. Let's just move on. Su Liang touched Mu Qingqian's little head and comforted him with a smile. "Okay, just listen to senior brother Su." Mu Qingqian nodded lightly, but it seemed that she was still worried about this matter. Then, impatiently, Mu Qingqian followed Su Liang and walked deeper into the secret realm. However, passing by several halls that looked like places of trial, there was no movement at all. Could it be that it has been a long time and everything here is broken? Su Liang thought about it carefully, but after a little perception, he found that these things could obviously operate normally. That means that Mu Qingqian's strength and understanding of the sword art have met the requirements of these trials, so these trials will not be triggered. If this is the case, what is the operating principle of this place? Why does it feel so smart and magical? Su Liang touched his chin and thought carefully, but he didn't get an answer for a long time. Then, he simply shook his head and ignored it. It's not an important thing at all, so why bother to find out? Continuing forward, after a while, the corridor in front of them became narrower and narrower. What finally appeared in front of the two people was a generous bronze door. Compared with the previous bronze doors, this one obviously has a bit more weight and mystery. There are many incomprehensible inscriptions engraved on it, but a small amount of spiritual power is constantly gathering, emitting waves of buzzing sword intent. Step forward. Mu Qingqian skillfully put the long sword in his hand into the keyhole. There was a clicking sound, and for a moment, dust flew into the sky. What appeared in front of the two people was an almost empty hall. The main hall is almost identical to the previous ones. But among them, the trial dolls in each level are missing. Instead, there was a stone platform with a very ancient-looking book floating on it. It exudes bits and pieces of sword intent, and the sword energy is constantly lingering in it. Just for a moment, Suliang recognized that the sword intention was cultivated from the fragment of the sword technique in the sword. But it is different from that fragment. The sword intent surrounding that book is more complete and sharper. Like the blazing sun in the sky, people dare not look directly at it, its sharp meaning reaches deep into the soul. The opportunity here must be that. Suliang pointed to the secret book. Let's go over and take a look. Immediately, the two of them walked forward together, stood in front of the stone platform, and looked at it carefully. After repeated inspections, no abnormalities were found. Then, Suliang then said to Mu Qingqian, "Qingqian, please take this secret book. Many opportunities have special settings, and only the first person to touch them will get the greatest benefits. If it weren't for the worry that there would be the same design here, Suliang would have taken action long ago to help his wife test whether there was any danger." Mu Qingqian nodded, without being polite to Suliang, and reached out to touch the secret book. Can be followed immediately. A crack in space appeared, and Mu Qingqian was suddenly sucked into it. Suliang frowned and immediately took action to detect, then he breathed a sigh of relief. He could sense that his wife was currently in a space that overlapped with this one. There is no danger there, but there is plenty of spiritual energy there, a bit like a heritage space. Since there is no danger, there is no need to worry too much. Can be followed immediately. The light condensed in front of Suliang, and a figure suddenly appeared, looking at Suliang lightly. I thought I would meet another genius with the legendary sword body, but I didn't expect that the one who actually wears the sword body is not that little girl, but you, a master of swordsmanship. Looking at the somewhat illusory figure in front of him, Suliang frowned. In his perception, there was nothing in front of him at this moment. Chapter 586 Chapter 585 I am a scumbag, and I still end up giving up. After a long time, Mu Qingqian received the complete sword technique and was teleported out of that space. It's really strange. Even though I just learned a set of swordsmanship, why do I always feel like I'm being taught by someone? But this set of swordsmanship is really too strong. It is much more powerful than what Master taught. It's truly an incredible opportunity. Immediately, she raised her head and looked at her husband, and then she became confused. Senior brother Su, what's wrong with you? Suliang took Mu Qingqian away from the secret realm with a melancholy look on his face. What puzzled Mu Qingqian was Suliang's melancholy expression. When Mu Qingqian accepted the inheritance, Suliang was actually not idle. Suliang chatted with the beautiful figure who suddenly appeared for a long time. As soon as it appeared, Suliang was already sure that the beautiful figure was not real at all. If you are serious about it, it should be regarded as a consciousness, right? Only a trace of the soul remains, staying in this secret realm, looking for someone who can accept the inheritance. If you calculate it carefully, this beautiful shadow is actually far inferior to the highest level of Suliang's consciousness in the past when he was in the Abyss Ancestral Palace. And a conversation with this beautiful figure finally made Suliang understand the origin of this secret realm. Sure enough, this is a trial venue. And it was also the testing ground for an extremely powerful swordsmanship sect in ancient times. Even at that time, this swordsmanship sect could be said to be extremely powerful. It had many disciples, sufficient resources, and strong men. There were countless top-notch techniques and secrets, and its foundation was extremely profound. Even the strongest among them already has the strength of Wancheng. In comparison, no current sect can compare with it. But this kind of sect was quickly divided up and submerged in the long river of history after the sect leader, elders, and other high-level powerful people died in the battle with hundreds of foreign tribes. If the sect master hadn't had a premonition that things were going to change before he left, he would have left a piece of his soul consciousness in this place of trial in advance and hidden it. I'm afraid there's no way to stay in this place of trial. That sword was also the sword of the original sect leader. The reason why this trial place is hidden is precisely because the sect's ancient books are kept here. This is exactly what Mu Qingqian learned. Nowadays, Mu Qingqian's path to swordsmanship has not yet been completely finalized. If he can incorporate this Zhen sect classic into his practice, the benefits he can gain must be immeasurable. As for Suliang, after learning about the relationship between Suliang and Mu Qingqian, the sect leader's consciousness also let him take a look at this secret book. But now that Suliang has his own swordsmanship, this thing is just a reference for him. No matter how powerful the Kendo classics were, for Suliang at this moment, they were no match for his own sword. Naturally, I will not switch to other methods. But Suliang still bowed respectfully to the sect master's consciousness, and promised to protect Mu Qingqian forever. No one needs to remind her of this. Of course she must protect her. But for such a powerful sect to disappear without a word really made Suliang feel a little sad. And after leaving this secret realm, Suliang and Mu Qingqian found a secluded place and lived in seclusion for 2 days. During these 2 days, the two of them were practicing swordsmanship and dual cultivation techniques at the same time. All in all, it was a very fulfilling life. Enriched in every sense of the word. Mu Qingqian ate very full every day, even to the point where practicing swordplay was a bit strenuous. And after Mu Qingqian's time arrived, Mu Qingqian immediately kicked her husband out of the house. Go find that little witch Tao Yao Yao. If this continues, she won't be able to practice her swordsmanship at all. Mu Qingqian pouted, seemingly dissatisfied. But in fact, she was simply worried that if she didn't let her husband leave, she might not be able to let him go at all. And next up is that girl Tao Yao Yao. Although on the surface it seems that the two people have been quarreling and fighting. But what the reality is, both of them know clearly. Mu Qingqian would not occupy Tao Yao Yao's time. But where should I find her? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 678. Suliang was a little confused. Others, Suliang, felt reassured that they could find him no matter how remote the place he was taken to. But that little fool Dao Yao, Suliang was worried that she would get lost along the way. This is not impossible. Instead of waiting for her to find him, it's better to find him yourself. But where to find it? Dao said that she has already gone to see those children. If you want to find her, just go there directly. Mu Qingqian conveyed what Tao Yao Yao said before leaving. After Suliang and Qin Benjiao left, everyone else also dispersed, going where they wanted to go and doing what they wanted to do, which was considered killing time while waiting for their husband. Mu Qingqian chose to travel around to improve his strength, while Tao Yao Yao chose to go to a place that only she and Lang Jun knew. She also told Mu Qingqian these words before leaving. The moment he heard this, Suliang understood. It seems this girl Tao Yao Yao has gone back again, right? Well, I understand, let's go find her now. Suliang smiled and nodded, but then he patted Mu Qingqian's little head. You have to be careful on the way back, you know? You can practice at any time, but you must pay attention to safety and get home safely. Know it? Mu Qingqian chuckled, obviously very happy with her husband's concern. Immediately, all the way away, very fast, as if running away. I'm afraid that if I walk a little slower, I won't be able to help but stay. Although this is the case, that girl Tao Yao Yao may not mind, but she is a bit harsh and says some unpleasant things. But Mu Qingqian felt that doing so was unfair to the girl. This won't work. Watching his wife leave, Suliang turned around and left, heading to his destination. With Mu Qingqian's strength, the world is huge and he can go anywhere. Even if he encounters a strong person in the Transcendence realm who cannot defeat her, he can still leave safely. What's more, after many years of wandering outside, Mu Qingqian's experience can be said to be quite sufficient, which is completely different from that little fool Tao Yao Yao. Suliang was not worried at all. Recalling the past events, Suliang showed a faint smile. Going to that place again? Although it is remote, it is a quiet and peaceful small village. The last time I went there, it left a deep impression on Suliang. And I went there in a hurry last time, and my relationship with Tao Yao Yao was a bit awkward, so I couldn't really feel the atmosphere. This time, there is a chance. Riding the sword quickly all the way. From a distance, Suliang saw the small village that was still impressive. It's finally here. I wonder if that girl Tao Yao Yao has arrived. You shouldn't get lost. That girl knows the way here best, and she set off long ago, so there will definitely be no problem. After landing on the ground, Suliang looked at some of the gifts he had prepared and walked in. It's really strange, why do you feel nervous about meeting your mother-in-law? However, to Suliang's surprise, he was extremely quiet along the way, and no one came to talk to him at all. Until several children saw Suliang, they threw stones at him and ran away shouting, "The bad guy is coming, the bad guy is coming." This moment, Suliang was confused. Something happened here? It shouldn't be, such a remote place doesn't look wealthy, and there are no treasures worth remembering at all. Even those demons passing by would not necessarily take a second look. There's no way something could happen, right? And it still feels calm and peaceful here, and it doesn't seem like anything has happened. That is how the matter? If nothing is wrong, people here shouldn't be so indifferent to me, right? And those kids actually called me the big bad guy. It's so confusing. It's really confusing. It feels like they are just targeting me. Continuing to walk forward with an inexplicable mood, Suliang soon met a familiar person. It was the person who arranged a room for himself and Tao Yao Yao last time. Was Tao Yao Yao calling her aunt, or was she being dragged by aunt? It must be my aunt, right? In this case, considering the relationship between myself and Tao Yao Yao, it shouldn't be wrong to call her aunt. Auntie, I. Suliang stepped forward, intending to establish a relationship, have a conversation, and find out what happened. However, before Suliang could say anything, the beautiful woman snorted coldly. "Don't call me aunt, you don't deserve it." "Huh? Why am I not worthy? Obviously Tao Yao Yao is my wife, so I should call you aunt, right?" Suliang looked confused and had no idea what he had done. "Humph, you bastard, scumbag." The beautiful woman snorted coldly again and was about to pick up the thing in her hand and beat Suliang out. "You have done something sorry for my family, Yao Yao. You have always been in trouble and abandoned her, and you still dare to come back. Look, I won't beat you to death. Even if I am not as powerful as you, I will never allow you to bully Yao Yao. No matter what, I will risk my life." Listening to the beautiful woman's words, Suliang dodged and became even more confused. What's going on? Are you a scumbag who always gives up? Where did this come from? It was clear that things were fine when they were separated from Tao Yao Yao before, but what is going on now? "Auntie, you must have misunderstood. Yao Yao and I are very good, nothing happened." "Bah, don't even try to lie to me. The beautiful woman didn't look at Suhao at all, she put her hands on her hips and was very angry. I'm telling you, if you make Yao Yao unhappy, it's impossible for us to let you go. Chapter 587 Chapter 586 Bullying your girlfriend? The misunderstanding has become serious now. If you don't leave, we will be really rude to you. Even with Suliang's strength, the beautiful woman didn't know how she could be rude to Suliang. Even if they have never heard of Suliang's reputation, being able to be favored by Tao Yao Yao means that Suliang's strength is certainly not trivial. Because of Tao Yao Yao's relationship, they still know about being an immortal cultivator. Maybe, if they offended such a strong person, their entire village would be able to survive. But so what? If you dare to bully my Yao Yao, I can't make it easy for you even if I risk my life. And when the beautiful woman was arguing with Suliang, almost everyone in the village heard the noise and rushed over, staring at Suliang with unkind eyes. They think the same way. Dare you bully my Yao Yao? How could I let you go? However, Suliang was extremely confused about this. When had he ever bullied Tao Yao Yao? Where are all this? Just when everyone was arguing non-stop and almost had food thrown at Suliang, Tao Yao Yao finally arrived, squeezed in from the crowd with great difficulty, and said anxiously, everyone has really misunderstood. Brother Suliang and I really have nothing to do with each other. No, how could it be nothing? Before anyone else could speak, Suliang spoke first. Can't we let others know about the two of us? Good guy, my wife actually disowns me, is that okay? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding crowd became even more excited. You also said that you didn't bully Yao Yao, and you even admitted it yourself. If you dare to bully Yao Yao, drive him out. Listening to the words of the people around him, Suliang was completely confused. I am really innocent. Brother Suliang, please stop causing trouble, okay? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 679. Tao Yao Yao glanced at Suliang helplessly and sighed. Looking at the excited people around her, Tao Yao Yao really had no choice. He actually hugged Suliang's neck, stood on tiptoes, and kissed Suliang hard on the lips. Moment. The whole world seemed to be quiet. Everyone looked at Suliang and Tao Yao Yao in stunned silence. For a moment, they didn't know how to react. Now, do you believe it? Tao Yao Yao sighed. Brother Suliang and I have always been on good terms. Brother Suliang dotes on me. It's not what you think. It turns out it's true, ahaha, young man, are you okay? Yes, I just said that when I saw this young man last time, this young man was quite nice. How could he do such a thing? It's all a misunderstanding. Let's get over it. Don't disturb the reunion of the young couple. Moment. The crowd around them dispersed, and even the aunt from before left, as if she was embarrassed to meet Suliang. See this? Suliang scratched his head and asked confusedly and helplessly. Yao Yao, what on earth is going on? This is actually everyone's misunderstanding. Tao Yao Yao said, half embarrassed and half helpless. When everyone saw me coming back alone and your sister following me, they all thought we had a fight and that you were bullying me. So. The words were not finished, but the meaning was already clear. Is this a misunderstanding? The corner of Suliang's mouth twitched, feeling very helpless. He was scolded for no apparent reason, but what could he do? After all, they all exist like his wife's family, and because he cares about Tao Yao Yao, can Suliang really be angry with them? Then, Suliang could only sigh. Well, that's it. It'll be fine now that the misunderstanding has been resolved. Hey, I know brother Suliang is the most angry. Tao Yao Yao chuckled, holding Suliang's arm with a flattering smile on her face. There's nothing I can do about it. Everyone is very concerned about me, but they didn't listen to my explanation. Instead, they thought I didn't want them to worry. Immediately, he came forward again and exhaled like a orchid. As compensation, brother Suliang can do whatever he wants tonight. After hearing this, Suliang just glanced at Tao Yao Yao and said nothing more. Normally, even she and Mu Qingqian together were no match for Suliang. In the end, it was Suliang who took the initiative. Does she need to say this? Walking like a walk, the two of them soon arrived at the hut they had prepared when they came last time. Pulling her husband to sit down on the bed, Tao Yao Yao hugged Suliang's arm and smiled happily. I can finally be in the same room with brother Suliang openly. I still remember that the last time I arrived, although they were assigned a room, the two of them were just embarrassed. This time. But it's full of warmth and sweetness. And just then, there was a knock on the door, and a voice came in. Yao Yao, Xiao, Xiao Liang, are you there? The door opened, and the person who walked in was Tao Yao Yao's aunt. The moment she saw her aunt, Tao Yao Yao pouted, feeling a little unhappy. Obviously, she still wants to reunite with her brother Suliang after a long absence, and the drama of a little farewell is better than a wedding. Now that my aunt comes, I can't go on at all. But my aunt can't take care of Tao Yao Yao anymore. You are all here. With an awkward smile on her face, the aunt put what she was holding on the table beside her. Ahem, this is a little snack I made myself. You and Yao Yao can eat some when you have nothing to do. It doesn't taste very good, but it's better than nothing. Also, the previous misunderstanding. At this point, my aunt became more and more embarrassed. Previously, when Suliang first came here, she was the first to attack, arousing everyone's emotions. Although because of this misunderstanding, even if she doesn't take action, someone else will. But no matter what, it was considered a misunderstanding on her part, which caused Suliang a lot of trouble. No matter how I think about it, I feel a little sorry for Suliang. The young couple are very affectionate, and the girl Yao Yao also said that it was not because of a quarrel or anything that she came back on her own. But he didn't believe it, and instead spread the news everywhere, causing such a big misunderstanding. That's right, the fact that Tao Yao Yao was abandoned and came back alone after a quarrel with Suliang was what she guessed and spread. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that she should apologize to others. No matter how you look at it, Suliang and Tao Yao Yao should be regarded as their own talents after they get together. How did Suliang know that there were such complicated things here? Even if he knew, he probably wouldn't care. After all, he was an elder, and because he cared about Tao Yao Yao, Suliang understood it very well. Then, Suliang quickly got up. My aunt is serious, it's just a misunderstanding, nothing like that. I'm very happy that you can consider Yao Yao so much, said. Suliang picked up a piece of snack very naturally, intending to taste it and then praise it to liven up the atmosphere. Then, the moment the snack entered his mouth, Suliang fell silent. He wanted to praise him, but people can't, at least they shouldn't be so unconscionable. This thing is not unpalatable, but the texture and taste are really weird. It looks like a biscuit, but it doesn't taste crispy at all, but soft and glutinous. Then I picked up a pastry-like thing. Sure enough, this thing was very crispy. And after tasting too, Suliang confirmed that it was not a mistake by his aunt. But the dim sum here, every one of them is salty. But it doesn't feel like a salty snack, it's like a dish with salt. It's not unpalatable, it can even be said to be a bit novel, but if you are used to eating usually sweet snacks, you will always feel a little strange when you eat these. There is absolutely no way to adapt. Auntie's craftsmanship is really unique. Suliang said with a strange expression. Apart from this word, he really didn't know how to describe the taste and texture. I know brother Suliang can't get used to it. Tao Yaoyao was very amused to see her husband's way of praising her even though he was not used to eating, and she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Not only Suliang, she herself couldn't get used to it either. It can even be said that people here are not used to eating it, and even the children will not touch these things. My aunt usually looked very sorry, looking for people to try the food everywhere, but no one paid attention to her, so she had to deal with it all by herself. Now that I finally met Suliang, of course I had to show off my skills. He glared at his wife. Suliang thought for a while and suggested, "How about I come cook and make a meal for everyone? It just so happens that I came back this time and brought a lot of pretty good ingredients as gifts for everyone. How about cooking them all for everyone this time?" After hearing this, my aunt was very surprised. "Okay, then we are waiting to taste your craftsmanship." Then Suliang came to the kitchen and took out all the ingredients he brought back. When he came back this time, Suliang brought many treasures of heaven and earth. Many of them are good things to cleanse the body and improve the foundation of qualifications. Just so that those children can have better cultivation qualifications after eating it. Even if others eat it, it will have good effects. It may not be used to improve qualifications, but at least it will make the body healthier. It can be said. The things Suliang chose are perfect for this place. And on the side, seeing these things that her husband took out, Dao Yaoyao's eyes immediately softened. How could she not guess her husband's thoughts? He knows that this place is very important to him, so he takes so much trouble, right? Really, how could you not like brother Suliang like this? Feeling excited, Tao Yaoyao immediately stood up. "Brother Suliang, I want to help too. Don't cause any trouble for me while you wait for dinner to begin." Okay. Chapter 588 Chapter 587, Sudden changes occur and become confusing. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 680. At night. The people in the village all gathered together, waiting for Suliang to bring out all the delicious food, and everyone couldn't wait to use their chopsticks. They have been waiting for a long time. From the beginning, they smelled the fragrance that they had never experienced before, and they couldn't wait any longer. Now, after eating it, everyone's eyes widened with expressions of surprise. "It tastes really good. I didn't expect our uncle to have such skills. It seems that this girl Yao Yao is very lucky. She has found such a wishful man. He is nothing like the man from my family. He can't even tell the difference between salt and sugar." Even many children gathered around Suliang, pulling on Suliang's sleeves. Big brother, please don't leave, okay? These delicious things are all made by big brother. If eldest brother leaves, won't we all be able to eat?" And the eldest brother seems to be Sister Yao Yao's husband. Although I don't know what a husband is, he should have the same relationship as father and mother. Then it's even more important to stay. Listening to everyone's appreciation, Suliang just responded with a faint smile. Tao Yao Yao on the side had her hands on her hips, almost flying with pride. "Praise me more, I like to hear it. Although it was brother Suliang who praised me, this is the man I got back. Of course I should be happy and proud. Wait until the crowd disperses." Tao Yao Yao and Suliang returned to the room, lay on the bed, and cuddled together. Think about everything that happened today. He didn't care at all when he was misunderstood, and he even brought them so many good things and cooked such delicious meals. Brother Suliang must be very tired after eating food for an entire village, right? He did this all for himself. Biting her cherry lips, Tao Yaoyao couldn't bear it anymore and kissed her. Brother Suliang has the final say tonight. Early the next morning, Tao Yaoyao yawned and got up, looking at the rising sun outside, feeling very unhappy. What on earth did you experience last night? He was obviously very excited, and the emotion and love in his heart had reached the maximum. Obviously the best performance is to meet again after a long separation, and the separation is better than the newlyweds. The results of it? Suddenly there was a commotion outside, and the voices of many children were heard. Tao Yaoyao immediately went out to take a look, and saw many children coming to her place, saying that they were hungry at night and wanted to eat the food made by their elder brother. What a thing! You've obviously just eaten less than an hour ago, but you're actually hungry so quickly. You are obviously so young, but why do you have such a big appetite? No way. Suliang had no choice but to get up and make something easy to digest for them. After they were full, they finally calmed down. To this, Suliang's explanation was that after all, they were fed so many natural materials and earthly treasures that could wash away the essence and cut the marrow. In the process of improving their qualifications, a lot of energy was consumed, and of course they were more likely to get hungry. Although Tao Yaoyao accepted her husband's explanation, and the night was still long enough for her and her husband to continue to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. But there is no such atmosphere at all. But later, Tao Yaoyao was very satisfied and didn't finally fall asleep until the early morning light. But if you should be unhappy, you should still be unhappy. Tao Yaoyao decided not to take those children to play today. Such a good opportunity, of course, is to take my husband with me to see around. But at this moment, suddenly there was a loud noise outside the door. Before Tao Yaoyao could get curious, the door was suddenly opened. Suliang poked his head in and took a look. Then he walked in with a serious look on his face. Yaoyao, something seems to have happened at your home. Ha, something happened at home? No, I'm just at home right now, there's nothing going on here. Wrong. Brother Suliang should be talking about where his mother went. Although I have always been disliked before, I don't want to go home. But after all, they are his mother and sisters. Of course Tao Yaoyao has deep feelings for them. Sit back and watch what happens at home and ignore it? Tao Yaoyao couldn't do such a thing. Then Tao Yaoyao stood up quickly and said eagerly, "What is going on? Come with me and have a look." Suliang sighed and brought Tao Yaoyao to the door. I saw. Tao Yaoyao's sister whom she met last time has actually arrived in this village now. However, the difference from last time is that this time, the girl did not bring any guards and was alone. And his face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He obviously looked injured. How is this going? Tao Yaoyao panicked immediately, and hurriedly walked forward, holding her sister's hand, almost crying. How come you were injured so badly? What did you do? Immediately, without waiting for her sister to answer, Tao Yaoyao took Suliang's hand. Brother Suliang, hurry up, help me take a look. My sister is very seriously injured. I'm a little worried. Don't panic. Suliang patted Tao Yaoyao's little head to reassure her, then put his hand on the girl's wrist and felt it carefully. Immediately, Suliang's expression became a little strange. Suliang took a deep look at the girl and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I've stabilized her injury. She's fine. If you want to ask anything, ask it now." Tao Yaoyao nodded. Although she didn't understand how her husband stabilized the injury, since it was her husband who said it, he must have done it. After calming down her mood, Tao Yaoyao took her sister's hand and asked with concern, "What exactly is going on?" The girl smiled bitterly. "When we were fighting against the abyss before, my mother suffered some injuries. Although they were not serious, they affected her strength greatly. I don't know why, but when the news spread, it aroused the covetousness of others. As soon as these words came out, Tao Yaoyao believed them immediately. Being in the devil's path, how could Tao Yaoyao not know how people in the devil's path behave? No matter how powerful you were before, as long as you show a hint of fatigue, someone will immediately start coveting you. Unless his strength reaches the level of Ji Hongchen, even the master of the original demon sect would probably be like this. So, how's your mother doing? Tao Yaoyao asked anxiously again. The girl shook her head and sighed. In order to protect my sisters and me, my mother was seriously injured. Now, there is no way to save her. She knew you were here, so she asked me to come to you and want to see you one last time. As soon as these words came out, Tao Yaoyao didn't say anything. She didn't even have time to pack her things, so she quickly grabbed her husband. Brother Suliang, let's go back quickly. As long as you are here, my mother will be fine. Well, don't worry, it will be fine. Suliang nodded in promise and glanced at the girl again, her expression even stranger. You should recuperate here first. I'll call someone to pick you up soon. After telling her sister, Tao Yaoyao took Suliang and flew away. Bringing a younger sister with you will affect your speed. At this moment, Tao Yaoyao just wanted to return home as soon as possible. However, after Tao Yaoyao had gone far, but the girl immediately stood up and her face returned to rosy. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, the girl ordered behind her. Go, get all the things belonging to your sister and husband, and we'll go home immediately.